Hello there. My name is John Botting. If you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see that I actually don't do political stuff on YouTube. I keep my political stuff to my Twitter feed. Um, I use YouTube to promote sort of businesses that I do, really. But I'm so annoyed at what happened yesterday with the arrest of Tommy Robinson. And I've seen quite a few videos online over the last 24 hours about this. I thought that I ought to do something as well. I did see a video by a lady who said she was an ex-police officer living outside of the UK, and she was incensed by what has happened as well. And that just sort of spurred me on to thinking that maybe I should do something also. So a little bit about me. I am an ex-police officer. I did 15 years in total in the 1980s and the 1990s. I did 8 years as a special constable, which is someone who does it part-time and voluntary. And then in 1990, I actually joined full-time, worked in London for 7 years. I basically resigned. Well, I left the police force in 1997 on personal reasons. But that's a little bit about me. I've always been pretty political, and for those of you who don't know, if you're a serving police officer, you're not allowed to join a political party, and you're not allowed to really sort of demonstrate political things either. So there's a lot of restrictions placed on you as a police officer. Also, just to sort of set the record straight as well, before I go any further about my thoughts about all this, is that I wouldn't say I was a supporter of Tommy Robinson. I actually, to be fair, I don't really like him. I'm being totally honest here. I don't particularly like him. I don't like his history, and he's not really my view about things. However, saying that, I've got a lot of respect for the man, for what he's done over the years for English, bringing the sort of English nation to a forefront, and also recently he's definitely gone up in my estimation. Recently, he's far more intellectual in what he says, and he's doing a lot of work with freedom of speech. And obviously the influence of Islam in the UK society, which I fully go along with. I just don't particularly like the man as an individual. However, I'm not going to comment on what happened yesterday. There's a lot of misinformation out there, I will say, and we are also not allowed to comment on it now. On a personal note, do I think what happened was right? No, it wasn't right. I'll say as much as that. I don't believe it was right what happened to him. But I do understand what was going on in the background, really. I understand why the police did what they did. And obviously there was other things going on behind the scenes as well, with his live stream being watched by people who then instructed the police to do what they did. So that's about all I'm going to say with that. I believe it's wrong, and I don't believe that he should have been arrested on what he was arrested for. However, I'm a believer in free speech, and I've never been on a political march before, never. And I'm 55 years old, and I've never been on a political march. However, a couple of weeks ago, I did go on the Freedom of Speech March, which started in Speaker's Corner and then walked down to Whitehall, and I heard the speakers there. I had a great day. I felt very proud to be part of that, and there was a lot of people there, mixed people from all sorts of backgrounds, and I just felt that there was something I wanted to do as an individual, but I don't believe that marches and demonstrations are the way to go. And this is why I've put this video together, to be honest with you. Because, as I said, on the social media, I've been seeing loads and loads and loads of things about we've got to demonstrate about this. We're going to go to Whitehall today, which is Saturday, and now I've seen something else about everybody going to Speaker's Corner tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and that's great. I'm not saying we as a people we shouldn't do things like that. We should. However, you have to work smart in these situations, because without a doubt, our freedoms as individuals are definitely being restricted. There's no two ways about that, and that is very worrying for me, and obviously tens of hundreds of thousands of other people as well. What you've got to do, what we've got to do, is we have to work the same as they do, the same as the establishment work. How you put fear in them is not by having demonstrations. That doesn't put fear in them. What puts fear into the establishment and the established parties and the government and the official opposition parties is the thought that they may lose power. That's it. At the end of the day, they want power. They want to keep power. And if they think that they are going to lose power, they will buckle. And there's several examples of that. I'm going back quite a few years, and me saying about you shouldn't be demonstrating and things like that. There was one successful, massive series of demonstrations. In fact, they were riots that happened back in the 1980s, and that was the poll tax riots. The poll tax riots went on for quite a while, and they were very violent. And I'm not at all, in what I'm saying now, I am not at all advocating that people go out and riot. I am not, because it's against the law, and it's not, we shouldn't be doing things like that. So I'm not saying that at all. I'm just giving it as an example. It's the only example I know where it overturned a government decision, which was the poll tax. And it overturned it. The only reason it overturned it was because the government were frightened that they were actually going to lose power in doing that, by carrying on with the poll tax as it was. And they could sense the feeling within the country that a lot of people were against the poll tax. And that's the reason why it was overturned. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only sort of thing that happened, overturned government policy. And I might be wrong on this. I'm not some political specialist at all. I'm not. I'm just an ordinary person that's got an interest in politics. So that worked. There was a march going back in the Iran war days. I think it was called the Million Man March or the Million Person March or something like that, where 1 million people marched against the Iran war. What did that do? It did nothing. It didn't change government policy. They still carried on with the war. So that's my point. So what you have to do is you have to work smart. And the way to work smart, as I say, is play them at their own game. And to play them at their own game means that you must unite politically. That's how you have to do it. Okay, and again, I'll give you a little sort of example of that. And that's UKIP. So way back, when I left the police in 1997, as I said, I'd always been sort of had a political interest. And I couldn't get involved in politics because I was a police officer. So as soon as I left, literally as soon as I left, I joined UKIP when it was a very small party. It was about 3,000 or 4,000 members. They had no elected officials. They had no MEPs in power or anything like that. It was quite a small party. And I joined that party because I was passionate, and I still am, passionate Brexiteer. And I knew that UKIP was the only party that sort of had any chance at all in getting the UK out of the EU. So I joined UKIP. And over the years, I became politically active. I ran a branch. I was a branch chairman. I stood for Parliament several times. This is when the party, we were getting 2% of the vote. I stood in local elections. I stood in county council elections as UKIP. And over the years, we all know what's happened with UKIP. UKIP eventually grew and grew and grew from being what they called swivel-eyed loonies and racists and xenophobes and Little Englanders and all the other shit that the mainstream media throw on people who are quite not mainstream as they see it. That was all thrown at us at the time. But what happened over the years, because this is not going to happen overnight, it does take years to do. Over the years, what will happen is UKIP actually started to become a little bit more mainstream, in that the mainstream media started to take them seriously, and that's because they started to get electoral success. And they started to build a structure, a party structure with branches and things like that, and started getting elected officials into the European Parliament. They started to get councils elected. They started to win councils. And the mainstream media had no option but to take them seriously. And what did UKIP do? Without a doubt, UKIP actually pushed the referendum to take place on our membership of the European Union. And look what's happened now. And without UKIP, that would not have happened. And if UKIP had been just a pressure group, a bunch of people that used to go on marches, I guarantee you this would not ever have happened. So what we have to do now is we have to mobilize as people behind politics, behind a political party. Now, it's up to you how you do this. And unfortunately, when you look at what people would call the right, I don't necessarily think that's the right way of describing it. However, that's how it's described. So there's a lot of different parties out there. UKIP obviously is still around. I think personally UKIP is dead. It's dead in the water. I've got a lot of time for its new party leader, but I think it's just not going to go back to where it was before. I think UKIP's dead. And I think it's got such a tarnished name and bad name now that people have to mobilize under something either new or something that's already there and established. And this is where I'm leading to, because I've got a personal interest in one political party that I have joined. So what I would advocate is that people, if you're an English patriot, then I would suggest that you join the English Democrats Party. That's a party that I'm a member of. The party's been around for 10 years. It's got its structures in place. It's got a branch structure. It's got an NEC in place. It's got a constitution. It's fought elections. It's actually had an elected person, which was a guy called Peter Davies, who was elected a mayor in, I think it was Leicester, but don't quote me on that. So he was elected under the English Democrat banner, going back a few years now, and he's no longer around. But the party's been through those processes, used to fighting elections. It knows what it's doing. So if you're an English patriot, then I would strongly urge that you do join the English Democrats. If you are in Wales or in Scotland, but you're a unionist, then I would suggest the only party out there that you should mobilise behind would be For Britain. There's other alternatives, I know, but I would say probably For Britain would be the best one for you to go to. They have grown fairly quickly. They're already getting a branch structure in place, and they have fought elections this year in May. So, there'll be a home for you there. If you're an English person, an English citizen, and you are a unionist, I'm not a unionist, but if you are a unionist, then I would suggest possibly For Britain would be the party for you to go. However, if you believe in England and the English people and the English country and an English parliament and everything else, the only place you should join is the English Democrats. Really, really is. So that's what I would urge you to do. And then over time, and it's going to take time, you've got to start getting established. You've got to start fighting them in the trenches that they understand, and that is using political party. Go and do your demonstrations. Go and do your marches. I'm not saying don't do that. Absolutely not. If it makes you feel better and if it makes you feel like you're achieving something, fantastic. Do it. However, you must be aware that the only way we are going to make changes as a country and as people is to become political, to join a political party, to get your hands dirty, to work for that party, to go out and leaflet, to stand on street corners and hand out leaflets, to go door knocking, and to start building branches from the grassroots up. That is how you do it. That is how UKIP managed to achieve what it did with the European Union. And that is how one or two political parties are going to be able to achieve the changes that are now needed on freedom of speech and on the Islamification of the UK, because obviously it's the whole of the country that's being affected, and I'm predominantly only interested in England, is to become to join a political party and get active. So please, below in the video, I've put a link to the English Democrats Party. If you don't know who we are, have a look at it. Just check us out and see what you think. But I would say to you that no, I don't believe in all the policies that the English Democrats have. I don't. You'll never find a party that matches everything that you want. But you have to find a party that matches some of what you want, or maybe some of the more important things that you want. I didn't believe in all of UKIP's policies. No way did I. However, the main one that I believed in was the UK being independent of the EU. And that is why I joined that party, and that's why I became politically active, and that's why I stood for Parliament several times and stood for council and stood at all the various elections. That's the reason why. And went door knocking as well, and stood in the high street and handed out leaflets and was called names. And that's it. So that's the only way we can do it. So please click the link below, check out the English Democrats. If you feel that you could join us, please join us. And come to me. Let me know that you've joined. If we can get together a huge number of people, if a lot of people join the English Democrats, presently the membership sits around about 5,000 to 6,000. All right, 10-year history. If we could double or triple or quadruple the size of the English Democrats, for example, the money that comes in for a start is going to help the party. And we have a structure in place so we can work together and we can really start threatening what's going on in this country, threatening the government, threatening the opposition, threatening the mainstream media. Okay, that's the way to do it. If you really cannot join the English Democrats, then I would suggest you do exactly the same as I just suggested. Join For Britain and do exactly the same. Work from within that party to make the changes that are needed. And on that note, I'm going to end it. I hope I didn't waffle on. I did make some notes. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's all my notes covered. So that's it. Basically, let's get organised and let's do things the right way, and let's do it through politics. All right. Thanks very much for your time. And if you've got any comments, leave it below the video. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.